Hey there, welcome back to TML Weekly, Season 2, Episode 6. Just Johnny and I this week again. Nolan he's had a rough time, I think, coming back from Monte Carlo and all the crazy stuff that went there. He's a little under the weather, so he'll be back with us next week. We're a day early. We wanted to we were going to record, but then John made a good point. We got a circus, election happening down in the U.S. tomorrow, so there'll be a lot of eyeballs on that. So yeah, we're going to jump right into it. So obviously, we were both wrong. We both picked 6 points. If you go through the games, I think they played a real efficient game, for lack of a better term, on Thursday, I believe, against Seattle. I didn't have a problem with the effort there. And then, of course, they go in and lose in St. Louis and then lose in overtime in Minnesota. I didn't see much of the Minnesota game. I watched most of the St. Louis game. They're feeling their way out. We talked about the power play last week. Obviously, that's a concern. They're saying that Mark Savard is on the hot seat. Again, like I said last week, I'll reiterate, it's the players. The coaches, there's 6 or 7 schemes that you can do. These guys have to have a feel and find what works and get there. I don't put that on coaching, but some people will. What are your thoughts on the 3 games this past week?
So again, a good showing in Seattle. If that was the kind of game that you'd like to see us play. And frankly, I think that's the kind of game that the coach wants us to play. It was responsible defensively. It was chip and chase. Guys were not taking excess chances. It was a smart first game road trip hockey game. The St. Louis game, I think we had a bad 10 minutes in that second period where the wheels kind of fell off. I thought Wall looked good early. Second period wasn't great. Game kind of got away from him. And, my buddy is like possibly the world's biggest St. Louis Blues fan. And they've had our number for the last 35 years, it feels like, St. Louis. We had them in that one playoff series with the Dougie wraparound. And since then, it's been pretty much every time we seem to play the Blues, we get spanked. So, would I like to have seen us do a little bit more? Sure. I can live with kind of the way we played there. I wasn't upset with the effort necessarily. A little bit of a lapse in the second period, but eventually I feel like with our power play struggles and kind of where we're at, when all things are clicking, I feel like that's a game we can probably come out of with a couple points. The one that I find really interesting, and I'm going to blow people's mind, John, I don't have a problem with the Minnesota game at all. I've seen us get ripped to shreds by people online about this is the same team, yada, 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 blah, blah. It's not.
Hey, John, hold that thought. You're really breaking up. Can you hear me clear?
Yeah, you're frozen and bouncing around and whatnot. But I can see you and I can hear you.
I can only hear every second word that you're saying. I think we might have a technical issue here.
Technical. Okay. Should we shut it down and restart her?
Well, that's hard. That's hard to do. I think. Why don't you log off again?
Okay, I'll jump off and jump back on.
Yeah, and I'll just kind of talk. I'll just talk about what my thoughts are. But the team's right where they need to be. Nobody's running away with this division right now. Florida's, ahead. I think the idea is, you want to win the division or at worst finish second, so you get home ice in that first round. But it's wide open. Boston's struggling. Some of these new teams that are emerging, the Ottawas and the Detroits, they're hovering around 500 as well. So you haven't lost anything at this point. I think if you just keep rolling and trying new things, I think this group's going to be fine. People are concerned about Matthews' production. Matthews is his whole career has been a very streaky scorer. Yeah, he's got 4 or 5, I think now, and but he could get 10 in 6 games too. So not worried about him. I think Marner's playing well. I like that line a lot. Robertson, again, he gets into the lineup and doesn't make a difference. I don't like the record with Reeves. I'm going to say that when John comes on because he won't like that. But I don't like the record there, and we're just going to see how the next little while plays out. But they're you hear me now, John?
Yeah, I got you. I went hardwired in this time instead of Wi-Fi, so I should be better.
Yeah, that I just noticed a little bit. What I was just saying, I talked just about the division, right? The division's wide open. You want to finish, first or second in the Atlantic, because then you're going to get a game 7 at home in the first round, right? First or second really isn't going to matter. Sometimes it's better to be second because you might get a better opponent depending on who. There's a lot of teams in that. Washington's looking good. Jersey's looking good. There's going to be a little bit of a difference, I think, at the bottom end of the Eastern Conference. And then I just talked about a little bit. I don't like the record with Reeves in the lineup. That's well documented. And how did Robertson look last night? I didn't watch the game.
Listen, I've done my best with Nick Robertson, John, but you've brought me to the dark side. It was something I was thinking about, actually, believe it or not, with Nick Robertson. I was thinking about the power play, and I went in and I took a look. And granted, I don't follow the Marlies anywhere near what I follow the Leafs at, but I pay close enough attention that you kind of know what's going on and who's bubbling. And who's had a great start down there?
Who?
Young Nylander's brother.
Yeah, he's going to get a look. We talked about this. He's going to get a look.
5 goals in 8 games. You know what? And I'm just starting to think, like, at a certain, like, we got that one power play goal against Minnesota, and I know you didn't see the game. The pass by Matthews was about as elite a pass as you can make. He flipped that puck up over, like, from below the face-off circle to the top hash, like on a saucer for him, and it was one-timed in. But again, like sooner or later, we've like, they're trying different things, and again, I know you keep telling me about there's only 6 to 8 things that you can run. Mark Savard had the 28th, 26th ranked power play in Calgary, and now he's got the 30th. I can hear you. You're frozen solid though. So I don't know what Mark Savard is or is not bringing to the table. All I know is that this year's version of the Leafs power play, as coached by Mark Savard, is the same version of the power play in Calgary that was coached by Mark Savard. So there's that. But before we go there, I just wanted to finish up on my thoughts on the Minnesota game, if you don't mind. Minnesota is a very good hockey team this year, and I know people don't
been a good
pay
team
a lot
for 4 or 5 years. They're
yeah, but
right.
Listen, Minnesota's a solid hockey team, and I had, when I did my top 50 ranking this year, I want to say I had Kaprizov 14th, I think, and boy, he looks all of 14. He could be top 10. Quite frankly, the way he's playing right now. Kirill Kaprizov is a fantastic little hockey player.
He's a real deal for sure.
What I really take out of that Minnesota game is I'm not upset that we only scored 1 goal. I'm not upset that we lost 2-1 in overtime. I don't like the way that we lost in overtime with Domi staring at the puck again. I don't know why he's on the ice in overtime, frankly, but it's another story. But that is the type of game that I want to see us play. That game is the game that we lost last year 4-0, 5-1. And we are now, it's a different game. Is Matthew scoring at the same clip? No. Is Marner scoring at the same clip? No. But you'll notice they're playing a functionally different hockey game. This is not wheel and deal, up and down the ice, pond hockey anymore. We're not doing that. And we did that for years. We'd win a bunch of games in the regular season. The tight checking would happen in the playoffs, and we'd look confused. This is the type of game. If I love that we're playing this way in October. I don't care what the record is right now. I really, and coming from me, that's a big deal.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree. I'm fine. It's like I said, you're right there. Nobody. Florida's not 12-0, right? Yeah, like you're a couple of wins away from being at the top of that division, and if you play the right way, like you said, you're going to have more success towards the end. I wanted to get back to your comment on the power play. I've coached for a lot of years, at different levels, and the one thing that I used to do. And this goes way back to when I coached in the 80s, right? 90s, 2000s.
You were alive in the 80s?
Yeah, I coached. I was a head coach in the 80s. Yeah. And, while playing hockey still, playing junior or whatever. Anyway, what I used to do is I'd make it simple. I'd say, okay, and I'd take the biggest, heaviest, meanest guy on my team, and I would park him in front of the net and literally move everything back like an umbrella and have 3 across on the back end and feed everything back, couple of touch passes back and forth, and hammer it at the net. And they knew who was going to shoot it, so I'd put Matthews at the top of the circle, and then I'm thinking a guy like a Bobby McMahon. He's a big guy with half decent hands, and get him in front, cause that havoc, right? Go back to basics, right? That's what power plays were in the 60s and the 70s and the 50s, even before that. You would absolutely crash the net. You'd have a big, mean guy that if you're going to take him down or you're going to immobilize him in front of the net, you're going to take a penalty, right? So then you're going to see a 5-on-3, whatever. But I would go back to kind of something like that and just start throwing pucks at the net. Stop getting cute. Just get the puck to the net and have traffic and bodies there. Goaltending is better than it's ever been, right? Agreed. You don't have the the Patrick Roy or the Martin Brodeurs or some of these superstar goals, Dominic Hasek's. You don't have those, but every goalie can play. Man, they're bigger.
But the mean has come up 100%.
Yeah, like the goaltending's good. Like you have to make a perfect shot on a cross ice seam pass and move that goalie to open up a spot, because if he knows where you're shooting it from, a lot of goalies, there are very few goalies in the NHL, if they know where the puck's coming from, are not going to get in the way of it. So you gotta A, not let them see it if that's possible, or B, have somebody there, have that net presence, so when that rebound's down there, it's in. And get a couple garbage ones. Get a couple of greasy goals. Go 3 for 3 on a power play one night. Get some confidence, and then they'll start rolling in. But yeah, I mean, Matthews' numbers are down. Matthews is streaky. Matthews will score 12 and 8, right? I'm not worried, and I don't think he's worried about it either. Matthews at the end of the day is going to have 40 to 50 goals on an off year. And that's a pretty good, and if he's playing a 200-foot game like it appears, and he always has, in fairness to him, but he's taken on some leadership and this and that and the other thing. I think he could score 30 if they can get to the promised land in June. He wouldn't care. He'd score 30 a year to win cups, right?
No, the only reason I was bringing up the top line is there's, and social media, there's been a lot of heat on that top line for not performing at the standard that we've been accustomed to the last few years.
Yeah, but those are warriors that are looking at the game sheet and not watching the game. When they have the puck, there's not been a 5-man unit on any team that they've played so far. When they've got their cycle and they get going heavy on the forecheck, nobody in this league can handle those 3 guys. Matthew Nye is coming into his own, and he is a big, strong. Like, he wasn't this strong when he came up, right?
100%.
Heavy on the puck,
Nice.
making good decisions. Yeah.
And listen, and above all else, and for everybody that's kind of on Matthew Nice, you got to remember the NCAA plays a significantly smaller schedule. And Matthew Nice was an NCAA guy. He's never played American Hockey League hockey. He's gone straight from the NCAA to the NHL. And he started off great last year and then tailed off near the end, right? Couple of injuries and stuff, but you know what? That's your first year tail off that you expect to see it from an NCAA player who hasn't. Again, you're not playing against kids your own age. Now you're playing against grown men, and they're beating the crap out of you every night. And now you're playing more and expected to play at that level all the way through. You're going to have that in year one. He clearly has bulked up and gotten a little bit bigger and a little bit stronger. And what I like more than anything, John, is he's not shying away. He's going in the corners. He's going in front of them. He's doing all of the things that you want that guy who's going to play with 16 and 34 to do.
Yeah.
All of those things. What my point here is, only on 16 and 34, is that they are being asked by the head coach to play a different style of hockey. And I understand. I can believe me. Watching the game and interacting with people on social media, I can understand. I can see the frustration in people who are like, Matthews is not going to score 75 goals this year. Everybody take a breath. He doesn't need to score 75 goals. And if we win and go 2 or 3 rounds in the playoffs, I promise you, Matthews, you, me, the guy complaining now, no one's going to care, right? But you've got to – Leaf fans need to recognize the fire wagon hockey under Sheldon Keefe is gone. It's that style of hockey is not the way Craig Berube wants you to play, and it's not conducive to winning. We've seen that. So let's allow this team to learn and get better as we watch them. And honestly, I'm looking at this team, John. I could not be more encouraged by what I've seen.
You can be 500 at Christmas and you'll be in a real good spot.
No, I'm okay because I look at the defensive play. OEL, can we talk about Oliver Ekman-Larsson? There may not have been a better free agent signing by the Leafs 15 or 20 games in than OEL. That guy looks.
Yeah, he's been great. He looks like he didn't do
fantastic
6-7 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I mean, he's been a revelation. I'd like to see him get a little more chance. You know who, if I'm going to be critical of anybody, do you know who I want to see a little bit more out of, who I expect a little bit more out of playing with Chris Tanev? Is 44. 44 is kind of, I don't want to say he's been incognito, but I don't know. I feel like
I thought he's looked good. He's Morgan's playing a different game now. Morgan's more if you really, really dig into it, Morgan's a lot more efficient than he used to be. Morgan used to almost have to, he seemed like he worked harder to get to the spots that he needed to get to. Now he's and that happens with a veteran defenseman. You've been around the league long enough. You find the shortcuts, not shortcuts where you're cheating, but shortcuts where it's like, hey, I'm not going to run 100 miles to get 2, right? I'm going to do it kind of the veteran savvy way. And I think there's a little bit of that. He's kind of caught in between, right? But yeah, he's fine. You know what? That pairing's been good. How did Benning look? I didn't see any of the game last night. How did Benning look? Did he play a lot? The kid they got from in the Lilligren trade.
I didn't even notice him. I'll be honest. I didn't even notice him.
He was in last night. I saw him in the lineup. I think they were just showcasing him. I think he's going. He's an NHL defenseman. I just don't know if he is on this.
So, okay. So that brings up a good point. I can't believe we didn't start off with this. The Timothy Lilligren era is over.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Timothy Lilligren's era with the Maple Leafs, and then B, kind of what you think the deal is for us. Are you happy with the deal? Are you upset with the deal? Are you,
I think Treliving did right by the kid. Okay. So the kid comes in, highly touted, and I've compared him to Rasmus Sandin, and they've a very similar story to Swedes, and they, first rounders, and they come in highly touted, this and that and the other thing. Toronto gave Timothy Liljegren an opportunity over and over and over to show what he can do to stay in the lineup and be an impact player. It didn't work. Unfortunate. I think they thought they'd get more for him, to be quite honest with you. And I think the market for him dried up. And I think they could have maybe got more, but they would have had to play him a little bit. Like, it's fair if a GM calls me and says, "Hey, I got Timothy Liljegren available. Are you interested?" I got a bigger stick because I can say, "Yeah, you've scratched him every night, right?" Like, so obviously, you don't think very highly of him, so I'm not going to give you a first rounder for him, right? You don't even have him in your lineup, right? When they moved Sandin was playing, right? He was playing.
And not only that, I think there's a book on Liljegren now, right? Liljegren's been in the league long enough.
Yeah.
There's a book. People know what Timothy Liljegren is and what Timothy Liljegren isn't. I think, like, my opinion on it is that Timothy Liljegren is getting the first round pick, second chance.
Yeah, exactly. And he's going to a place that he'll have some opportunity.
If Timothy Liljegren was a third round pick or a fourth round pick, Timothy Liljegren's not playing in the NHL right now.
Yeah, and here's the other part of that. I think they did right by him because if I'm looking at it from an asset, asset management, I don't think I move him for that package, right? Because if we get a couple injuries and he gets in there and he starts to look good again, and then at the deadline somebody like Washington's going to come in and give you a first rounder, so the return is okay. I think they did right by the kid. I think they're saying, hey, you know what? We drafted you. We liked you. He was a pro. I never heard anything bad about Timothy Liljegren off the ice, about how he was as a teammate. I think the guys like him. He's been around. I think they did right by him and said, okay, so we could maybe wait until February or March and get a bigger return if we play him a bit, right? You're going to get guys go down. You're going to have some injuries and shuffling on the back end. But I think it was time to move on from him. I'm glad they moved him, and the return's the return, right? At the end of the day, you have a spot now for Hakanpää is going to be he's close. I've heard. I think that might not be good for what's the French name?
Benoit?
No, the other one. Philip Myers.
Philip Myers.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the end of him. I honestly see Ryan Reeves, Dave Camp, and Robertson. That if they can get something for them or get rid of them, they will.
Okay, so I was watching the game on Saturday night against St. Louis, and there was a play where we were in the corner. We took a hit on. I don't want to say it was Tavares. It might have been Nylander took a hit. And Kara looked at me and she just said, "Dad, if we're not rolling Ryan Reeves out on the next shift, why is Ryan Reeves playing?"
Yeah, she's
and right. I went, but do you understand my point though? I kind of went like at a certain point, I like Ryan Reeves. I was big on Ryan Reeves coming here. When Ryan Reeves and listen, I get the fourth line, but that's the thing though. At a certain point, if you're not going to do what you're here to do, and you want to become something else at 37, you're done. That's not your game.
Domi will fight anybody in the league. Domi's a little bit loose. So if you got a guy running around or whatever, and somebody's got to step up, McCabe will fight. McCabe took a beat
fought the other night, looked great.
Yeah, he didn't win the fight, but he's fighting Braden Shen. And Braden Shen is one of the toughest players in that league, just like his brother. Good prairie
but you know what he did? You know what? He had no fear. He dropped. And you know what? I would be absolutely remiss if I didn't bring this up, because it has been something that has driven me nuts about this team for years. There was a play, I can't remember. It was either in the Seattle game or the St. Louis game. I think it was Seattle, to be honest, where there was a play behind the net, and it was after the whistle, and somebody went at Marner and gave Marner a shot.
Matthews. It was St. Louis.
And Matthews came in, and I went, oh, my God.
Yeah.
So all I'm going to say is, for anybody that does not believe that a team takes on the identity of their head coach, we begged and we pleaded for this kind of pushback and this kind of fight and this kind of passion to come out from these guys.
Part of it is that C on his jersey, and don't take anything away from that, but definitely having Berube there, and I loved it. I loved the look.
I loved it too. That's why I'm bringing it up. I feel like, you know what, we've crapped on them for years,
right? Yeah, that's what you want to see. You want to see the closest guy. I would always say to my teams, and if you have a tough guy, you have a tough guy, right? But if somebody takes a liberty with one of your teammates, the closest guy does not address it. And I don't care if it's a two-hand slash, you address it. If you're the littlest guy in the league and that's the biggest guy in the league, and you got a two-hand baseball swing him across the back of the legs to let him know, then you do that, right? But somebody's got to address it immediately, right? I used to equivalent it to, when your dog pisses on the floor, right? When he's a puppy, and you can't go to him an hour later, and say, oh yeah, you got to deal with it then, and it's the same thing, okay? So I've always coached in that kind of philosophy, because I believe that if it's addressed in the moment, like Matthews did that night, right? It's much more impactful and brings your group together more than if 3 shifts later Ryan Reeves goes out and fights their tough guy. And
keep in mind, and the interesting thing is, we are almost a year to the day of when we played Boston last year, and Liljegren ran into the boards,
right? Yep.
And his ankle got done, and Boston's coach left Marchand on the ice, and dared somebody to come over the bench. Can you imagine today?
No.
That would never happen. And all I'm saying is, again, guys, if you're listening to me, I have no problem when I'm concerned and I think things are going off the rails. I'm thrilled with where we are right now.
You mentioned Boston, and I just want to thank our sponsors, of course, Bjorn and Don Cherry Sports Grills for all their support. But Boston Bruins are an interesting cat right now. We talked about this a little bit off the air. So you've got, about a week ago, a clip surfaces where what's the coach's name? Montgomery.
Jimmy.
Montgomery.
John Montgomery.
Jim. Is it Jim or John? Jim.
I think it's Jim.
Yeah. Anyway, surfaces him going at Marshy, the captain of the team. He's, in his ear, giving it to him. Marshy's asked about it after the game. Hey, I'm a hockey player. If I can't take criticism from my coach, then there's something wrong. Handled it like a pro. No issue whatsoever. Okay. Less than a week later. Okay. So that's one of your superstars. Now, less than a week later, David Pasternak doesn't see the ice in the third period of a 2-0 hockey game. Coach is asked about it after the game. That's between me and the player. I made a decision. Here's my problem, right? You got your 2 best players. You as a head coach have been in conflict, right? In the last week. And I think he's a good coach. I really do. I'm thinking, though, his time might be coming to the end, depending. There's a lot of expectation in that market. Cam Neely is a perfectionist. Cam Neely will not put up with a team that's mediocre. He hasn't had one there in the last 15 years. They're always good. They're always there. They've won a cup. They've been close. You know, that team is, if that continues the 500 here over the next, say, couple weeks, I think you're going to see a coaching change. I don't know who's out there. I actually meant to Google it earlier. You know, obviously you're going to hear the rumors of Joel Quenneville. We've talked about that. I don't want to give him any more air, but he'll be talked about. There will be, and don't forget he beat that team in the final in 2013 too, right? So they know him real well. That same management group was there. You're going to see guys like all these guys are going to come out of the woodwork that have won before, but Cam Neely, I believe, will end up going somewhere like a college coach. I think it's going to be somebody like a college.
I can see that.
Real success. The Denver guy, I forget his name, but he's runs a real good program. He's been rumored for a couple jobs. Boston Bruins original 6 team. I think that would be with a lineup the way they do, real good goaltending, big heavy D that can move the puck and skate, and a couple of real studs up front surrounded by a good supporting cast. That team can win. It's one of those handful of teams that you going into the season, that team can win. So
let's remember they're struggling. Listen, Boston is struggling now, but keep in mind, Jeremy Swayman, had no preseason, right? So if anybody believes that Jeremy Swayman is not a top 5 goaltender in the league, watch the playoffs last year and ask yourself the question again.
Yeah, no, he'll be back.
Here's what I'll say about Boston, and I hate Boston. I hate Boston College. I hate the Boston Red Sox. I hate Harvard. I hate everything about that city. Okay. New England Patriots, all of them. However, what I love about Boston, and I shouldn't say I love, but what I admire about Boston is Boston has no time for nonsense. There's no time for mediocrity. They have a way of doing things, and you win or you go, and there's no in between. If you we had in the time that Keefe was here, Boston had 2 coaches, had 2 different guys take them to a Stanley Cup final. And now we're almost on to a 3rd coach in that same time frame. They have a standard of excellence, and you meet the standard or you don't. And while I hate them, hate the team, hate the franchise, I respect the heck out of them.
Yeah. I mean, the mediocrity will not, it's just not going to happen. Right. And whether it's coaching or whatever, I just think that, you see those 2 incidents in the run of 5 or 6 days, it makes me think that, all's not rosy. And we talked about it too, when, right before the season, I think it was in our opening show of the season, where Cam Neely is basically maybe cutting the GM's grass a little bit by commenting on the Swayman deal and this and that. So I don't think that everything is very cohesive in that front office, coach, that kind of stuff.
Something is rotten in the state of Denmark.
Yeah, it doesn't look, and you know what? They can win 8 out of 10 and it's all forgiven and everybody's good.
Okay, so which brings up an interesting
4 out of 10, we might be having a different conversation.
So listen, it brings up an interesting point, kind of while we're on the division. Listen, I take so much joy and pleasure in watching the Montreal Canadiens seemingly implode on a daily basis. It just warms my heart in this Christmas season that we're coming into. What were your thoughts on, because it's been a hot topic. What are your thoughts on Wi-Fi there at the end of the game? I'll let you go first. For those of you that don't know what we're talking about, I'll kind of set it up. In the game, the number 1 pick, what's his name from Montreal? The guy with the long name.
Ryan Backer?
No.
Slavkovsky
Slavkovsky gets run in the corner. He goes down. The world ends. And then right at the end of the game, Montreal loses again, which is nice to see, but they lose again. And they put Wi-Fi out at the end of the game. And with like 8 seconds to go, he sticks his knee out and tries to take a shot at the guy.
Who was the
What
guy
are
who was playing again? I watched it. Saturday night?
Yeah, I can't remember to be honest.
I'll find it. Keep talking.
But okay, so listen, I'm while I'm not a fan of Wi-Fi at all, I do respect the fact that he went out. I like the fact that St. Louis sent him out. I think at the end of the game is the time to do it. You know, there's no time left. You're not hurting the team. You're going to send a message at the end of the game. I like all of that. I positively hate the fact that he went for the guy's knee. You're a fighter. Get in there, get in his kitchen, give him a couple of shots, drop your gloves, take your beating, like do all of that good stuff. I don't care what anybody says. It's gutless to go for a guy's knee. Absolutely gutless. And for those of you that don't follow hockey to the same extent, the absolute worst term that you can use in hockey is gutless, in my opinion. And what he did was gutless. You're trying to injure somebody, and I don't care. That's not right. You could really screw a guy by taking out his knee. And I got no time for that. So I hated that. I liked the idea behind it. I hated the result.
Yeah, I don't even know if I like the idea behind it because it was Nola Cherry, former Leaf, and Pittsburgh that were in town. And Noel's playing. Pittsburgh's struggling, but Sydney's just been all world there the last few games. But Nola Cherry's playing half decent minutes. He's contributing. Yeah, I mean, was the hit. I mean, he never got no supplementary discipline. So, the hit was the hit, and should it have been addressed? Probably. But like I said earlier, do it now, not at the end of the game when and you look like
but it's to be fair though, John,
he's trying to stay in the league. Okay, the guy cannot play. He can't play. Right? He's Nick Robertson on defense. Right?
I agree with you.
You can't play.
All I'm saying is in a 3-1 hockey game where you think you've got a shot to come back in, right? In the third period, that's not the time to send Jack-Eye over the board to extract revenge, right? You're a goal away from being in the game. You don't go down 5 minutes in the third period, right? That's not a smart decision. What is a smart decision, in my mind, is once the game's out of reach and it's done, that's when you give your heavyweight the little tap on the shoulder and say, listen, go out and send a message. We're not to be messed with like this. I have no problem with that.
I have a different philosophy, and just because I've seen how the impact, I said this 10 minutes ago, the impact that something could have, and it didn't matter who it was. It could have been the little guy there, Hudson, right? When a Cherry, look, when Morgan Riley addressed Ridley Gregg from the Ottawa Senators, okay? I mean, that could have got addressed the next game. That could have got addressed, and you know what I mean? At the end of the game, whatever. But he didn't. He ran him, and it was dirty, and he got 5 games for it, and the Leafs won them all. But at the end of the day, the impact that it has on your group, just like the Matthews thing the other night, like we talked about. If somebody handles it then, okay? Kevin Bieksa said something really, really profound that I saw, and I know we're going to get in and talk about him and Jen Botterill, and they're passionate people. Jen Botterill, played at the highest level of women's hockey and was one of the best players in the world when she played. She has her opinion. She played a different game than Kevin Bieksa. The women's game, it's come a long way, and it's physical. It's just there's a different set of unwritten rules, right? Bieksa,
there's a different set of everything.
Yeah, Bieksa basically said, I forget how he worded it, but he was bang on. He said, you don't always know if something was dirty when it's happening in real time. So there's times where you just absolutely address something. and you address it because you saw it out of the corner of your eye and it looked like that guy, that brings teams together. I'm telling you, and I
100%
tried to coach it, that stage fight when the game's out, when they get the empty netter or whatever, has zero impact on what we are as a group. It's when I know that if somebody, as a coach at any level, I know that if somebody takes a liberty with one of my players at any given time, I don't care whether it's 2-2 in overtime, right? I would rather give up that point and have somebody address it now, okay, than we play them next Thursday. I'll line Ryan Reeves up again. No, that's not impactful. That's circus-like. It's not like hockey is such a passionate game. When you're on the bench and you look out there and your teammates are going to 100% have your back. Not Ryan Reeves is going to go out in the third period and fight somebody because somebody ran you. No, somebody's going to run you, and it could be the 5'6" guy or it could be the 6'5" guy. But you're going to get it. You're going to get a stick in the ribs. You're going to get a spear in the nuts. Something's going to happen to somebody that does something. And I think you're going to see, but getting back to Toronto, you're going to see that a little bit more here with this group.
Well, we already have. Let's be clear. We already have seen that, right?
So Montreal's a mess too. We talk about Boston, they're a mess. Martin St. Louis, his inexperience in coaching is
showing
out now.
It's showing.
You're caving to the pressure of the fan base and putting Arbor Chekai in the lineup and sitting Justin Barron and sitting, Caden Gooley and guys that can play. They can actually play in the NHL. Arbor Chekai is not an NHL defenseman on a playoff team, right? He's just not. Yeah, he can. Yeah, can he drop the mitts and go? Yeah.
The smartest thing they can do in Montreal, and not that I want to cheer for Montreal or give Montreal anything positive, but the smartest thing Montreal can do is get that guy out of town.
Yeah,
smartest thing. Smartest thing.
And the crazy Montreal fans are, you gotta have. He should be playing 30 minutes, right?
Absolutely.
No, he shouldn't. He should play 2 minutes.
Hold on. Maybe he should. Hold on. Maybe he should. Maybe we should let that guy play 30 minutes.
They've got 6 to 8 stud young defensemen in that organization. They have too many. They're not going to be able to keep all these guys.
No.
So what do you got this clown for? Like he's not an NHL hockey player.
Johnny, I think it looks beautiful. Yeah, I think it looks beautiful on him. I would be remiss if I didn't bring up, because it has been, if you've been on social media since Saturday night, the Jen Botterill apology tour of Get Violence Out of Hockey is it was just appalling on Saturday night to listen to her, and the idea that the kinder and gentler world of the NHL and pro athletes in general, where she keeps insisting that the game has changed. I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. When they come on, whether it's Ron McLean and her, I turn the channel, and I'm telling you, there are a vast, vast majority of fans, and I'd like to remind everybody, if you haven't watched me long, nobody loves grapes more than I do. The commercial between the first period, right before grapes, used to be the highest paid commercial on all of CBC. And now the majority of people that I know turn the channel during intermission. And just before I go any further, because I'm going to take it one step further, because I always do, we had to watch Luke Gajaniuk on a national broadcast in Canada. All 8 points of him. All 8 points. Like, I'd listen to Jen Botterill, 8 points guy, and Kevin Bieksa and Ron McLean. What are we doing as a national broadcast in Canada on a Saturday night that is the best that we can come up with? All I'm saying is, Rogers Sportsnet, you should be ashamed of yourself. Do better.
They don't pay anymore. They don't pay anymore.
Because they can't afford to, because they overpaid for the $5 billion.
Yeah, they don't pay anymore. And then there's lots of options out there to get your fix, right? We talk about the same stuff that they do, right?
Bush League.
There's free apps, and you know, so how many people, you know, you're right, they don't watch it, and you get what you pay for, and you're paying. Like TSN has a much better panel and whatnot than these guys, but you know,
O-Dog, Cheryl Pounder, they're great. Like those guys are great. Yeah. And they, you know what I like though, John? It's not as scripted, and everybody's allowed to have an opinion on that. Everybody that's on the panel has something to bring. I look at the panel on Rogers and I just go, you guys don't ever say anything, right? Like there's never anything of substance. Friedman will come on and he'll say something, but outside of that, everybody, it's just like let's be nice to each other.
I like Bieksa. I actually like Bieksa. I like what he has to say, just because he's, you know, he's credible, right? He's played in the league for a long time, and he was an impact player when Vancouver was a real good team. So I like his kind of his take on it, on a lot of the stuff. But yeah, Gaz,
I think you like him. I think you like Bieksa because Bieksa is all that's on there with any kind of credibility. If Kevin Bieksa was on like the TNT panel, he wouldn't be on that panel. Right? Like that's the reality, right? You like Bieksa because he's the best of what's there.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's going like pining away for Kevin Bieksa's opinion on something outside of the fact that he's the only guy who anybody is looking at and going, all right, well, at least you've played a little bit in the league.
Yeah.
Right? You know,
I don't disagree. It is what it is. And we're at the age now, like, and I said this about the kids in the game now. People don't watch the games anymore half the time, right? They're not watching them because they can get up in the morning and see if you watch a game in 10 minutes or a game in 5 minutes or you know, Leafs highlights, and it's a 4-minute YouTube video, and it's got every goal, every hit, every controversial play, you know, boom, 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 boom. Yep, I just watched the game, you know.
Yeah, I don't want to be that guy. If I ever get to that point, I don't know, take me behind the woodshed.
Yeah, I like the game itself. I like to, you know, get into it. I like to see, you know, you get emotional with it, right? You can get fired up when it's exciting, and you can be kind of, you know, down when it's not. But you know that takes that out of it. But hey, we're gonna run out of time here, so
you know what? Just for everybody that's watching, John and I did our best before we got on tonight. We were like, okay, we're gonna be quick tonight, half hour, 35 minutes, and we're done, in and out. Here we are. We're already at like 50 minutes already. So
here's you know, we obviously we both picked 6 points out of 6 last week. We ended up with 3, is what it is. You know, the efforts were there. I think that, you know, the lineup stuff's gotta come to a head here over the next couple weeks, but and figure out who's going to be here and who's not. I think there's lots of conversation. So 3 division games this week. So I think what's it? Boston, Detroit, Montreal.
Detroit,
Montreal back to back.
Montreal,
Saturday. Boston tomorrow, and then Friday in Detroit, I think, and then home to Montreal on Saturday. So, I mean, I you know, I'm gonna go back and say I don't know which one they're gonna lose, or maybe they lose 2 in overtime, but I think they get 4 points this week, and that's pretty good against 3 division teams.
So shout out to Nolan, just back off the Monte Carlo gambling trip. He's feeling good on his picks for the week. He sent him in. Nolan likes 5 out of 6 points this week. Listen, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go away from both of you guys here. I'm gonna take 2 out of 6. Okay, but be clear, of the 2, if we get 2 out of 6 here, again, I'm not concerned. I just want to see the same style of play that we saw in Seattle, that we saw in Minnesota. I just want to see us continue to build that same process out. Guys, the power play is not going to run at 10% all year. It's almost an impossibility, right? And so you got to figure sooner or later, guys are going to figure it out. We're going to get a couple of bounces. It's going to go in. We don't need to be at 25% to win hockey games. Think about it. If we were at 15 or 16% right now, we're in first place.
Yeah.
So again, I'm less focused on the end result of these games, and I'm more focused on the substance and the style that we play them in. And to that end, I'm going to take 2 out of 6, and I'm going to feel okay with where we are.
Yeah. I mean, you know what?
I told you, Johnny, I'm turning over a new leaf.
Never easy against Montreal or Detroit. They're fired up. That's the way it is, and it's good. I like the 3 in a row in your division because you can really make a move, and gain some ground on Florida. So yeah. Other than that, have a good week, folks. Enjoy the election. What are your thoughts on the election? Pick a winner in the U.S.
Well, you know what? If I was a gambling man, I would take Harris. But oh boy, is it going to be close? Pennsylvania holds the key. They call it the Keystone State, don't they? Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
See what I did there? There?
I think it's going to be Trump. I just do. I think his people will vote, and I'm not sure the Harris people will. Right.
Well, that's Philadelphia. Show up and vote.
Yeah. So
show up and vote, Philly.
Yeah. Thanks again to Bjorn, Don Cherries. Enjoy the election and the games this week, and we'll see you next Tuesday night.
Go Leafs, go.